So we're going to talk a little bit more about omega-6, but we're going to now get into how it fits into something else that we mentioned at the outset, which is the endocannabinoid system. And this is the system that this is where CBD and things like THC and CBD, these cannabinoids that the little kids were taking to stop epilepsy. This is what the endocannabinoid system is doing. It's, as we saw in the chat at the start, it's involved in homeostasis. It helps to balance pretty much all the different functions in your body. And talk about secrets. I mean, this was known for 100 years, and it was deliberately kept out of the medical text. The endocannabinoid system, it's like tuning in a radio station. You can get pretty close to the station you want to listen to, and it might be a little bit crackly and a little bit quiet, and there might be a bit of hiss and background noise. But if you get in and grab the knob and you tune it right into the exact frequency of that radio station, it comes through nice and clear, nice and loud, and it's, that's what you want. And that's what's happening with these functions in your body. The endocannabinoid system is constantly monitoring them. So it's looking at the firing of your cerebral cortex that are controlling your muscles, for example, and it's looking at how active they are and whether or not they're providing the right level of activity for what you want to be doing at the time. And if that gets out of balance, then you may get weakness or paralysis, or it might go the opposite direction. You might end up with epilepsy and seizures. And it's the endocannabinoid system that is there to stop that from happening. So why is it that things can go wrong, and that you can have things like epileptic seizures or things where, like, anxiety out of control, where the body is not able to control these things properly, and this homeostasis, this balance system is not working? The reason is because you can actually get endocannabinoid deficiency. So the body produces its own cannabinoids, and we know this, that when it was discovered that cannabis could impact this system, they found that the body actually made its own cannabinoids. And so why is it that people need to take CBD when the body can make its own cannabinoids and balance all those functions? It's because the endocannabinoid system may not be making enough of its own cannabinoids, or it might not be operating correctly. The receptors and the enzymes that make up the rest of the system, they may not be working right. And the consequences are that you can have immune dysfunction. Inflammation is one of the big things. So endocannabinoid system is there trying to stop inflammation from getting out of control. And you need a certain amount of inflammation. Your immune system uses it to destroy pathogens, for example. If you get a bacteria or a virus or some kind of contaminant into your body, it can use inflammation to just blast it and destroy it. And it uses oxidation the same way. But you don't want that happening all the time, and you don't want that happening excessively. And that's one of the things that the endocannabinoid system will do. An example that I came across when I started off in the hemp industry is not only were we encountering a lot of kids with epilepsy, parents coming to us and saying they want CBD for their kids, we encountered a lot of parents of kids with autism. And there was a lot of research taking place in how the cannabinoid system, what relevance it has to autism. And what they found was that there's a ton of inflammation that happens, particularly in the gut. And I'm sure you all know this with autistic kids. And the cells in these kids, of these autism kids, these cells increase the CB2 receptors on their cell membranes by 500%. So it's like the cell is saying, oh my God, inflammation is out of control. I need some cannabinoids. I need to get back to balance. For God's sake, give me some cannabinoids. Here's the receptors, and it blankets its surface in these receptors so that if any cannabinoids come along in the blood, it can catch them and turn the inflammation off. And so what we saw as a consequence is that they were giving kids CBD, and he's giving them cannabinoid products, and it was having a tremendous and immediate effect. I mean, I've got videos I could show you of kids that are just out of control, and they'll hold the kid down and stick a bit of CBD oil in its mouth, and within minutes, it calms down. and it's focused, and it now knows where it is, and it now knows who its mum is, and it's just incredible how quickly the endocannabinoid system can bring things under control when it gets what it needs. So when there's this deficiency and dysfunction of the endocannabinoid system, another big consequence of that is neurological dysfunction. The endocannabinoid system is extremely heavily involved in balancing the function of your nerves and your brain. Your brain is full of endocannabinoid receptors, and it's full of cells that make cannabinoids to try and keep your nervous system functioning properly. One consequence of this not working right is anxiety, and anxiety is actually, it was mentioned in the chat at the start today, and even I think someone said they're giving it to their dog for anxiety. Anxiety is the #1 reason people buy CBD. Above all else, above sleep and pain and cancer and all these other things that people are finding CBD useful for, anxiety is by far the #1 reason people go out and buy CBD, because it works. It helps the brain function better and helps to get that back into balance. And one other consequence, and this is a big one, is metabolic dysfunction. I mentioned that the cannabinoid system is intimately involved with your gut-brain axis. So the probiotic bacteria in your gut, how they're functioning, how that relates to the brain, and how that's controlling your metabolism and your conscious perception of that. So things like appetite and cravings, that comes down to how well your cannabinoid system is functioning. And why is it that the cells are not producing enough cannabinoids? I mean, what is it that's lacking? Can anyone guess? Think back to what this whole presentation has been about so far. What is the key ingredient that makes your cannabinoid system work properly? Ta-da! It's omega-6. This omega-6 plant-based essential fats are what cannabinoids are actually made from. So if you've got enough omega-6 in your body, you probably don't even need to take CBD, because your body's going to make the cannabinoids that it needs. It knows what it needs to be in balance. It knows if it needs more of them, and it makes them from the cell membranes. And it does that using the omega-6s that are in your cell membranes to produce these cannabinoids. It also stabilizes the cannabinoid receptors, like in those autism kids. The cells were blanketing themselves in more cannabinoid receptors because they were desperate for cannabinoids. If those receptors aren't stabilized in the membrane, then they're not going to function properly. And the omega-6 is important for the fluid mosaic model of the membrane that does that. And one consequence of having enough omega-6 in your diet is appetite suppression. And it's because your brain is registering that it now has what it needs. And it's giving the endocannabinoid system what it needs to balance those sensations as well. And of course, I'm sure this is something that's happens every day in your business as being a dietitian, is people are coming to you because of they've got problems with overweight. And sadly, USA is the world champion in this regard. It's in adults and children, it's approximately double the worldwide average when it comes to the number of people with overweight and obesity. It's ballooning out of control. And if you look at the typical what's called the SAD diet, the standard American diet, it's full of the wrong fats. So these people have not got enough of these fully functional fats in their cell membranes, and it's having a consequence on the way their brains are working, and they're eating the wrong things. That's having a consequence on the way their metabolism is working, the way their gut functions, and the end result is the epidemic of obesity ballooning out of control. So how can the endocannabinoid system, and specifically how could hemp potentially impact this and have a solution that could help, and could be a tool that could somehow help you to better serve your clients and give them better results with less effort and less money, and just better results all around? Well, we've already talked about omega-6, and that's certainly the starting point. That's the foundation. If you can start getting these functional fats into the diet, that's going to go a long way to helping the cell membranes work properly, helping the metabolism work properly, and helping the endocannabinoid system function properly, which can help get appetite and cravings under control and help the metabolism work better, help the metabolic organs, your liver and your pancreas and so on, help them work better because they all need oxygen to work properly. But there is something else that hemp has had hidden up its sleeve for years and years, and it's just been discovered recently. And I hope this blows your mind, because it blew my mind, and you are going to hear about it. You're hearing about it from me today, but you're going to hear about it elsewhere, because this is just absolutely incredible what hemp is offering when it comes to the obesity epidemic. There is a cannabinoid called THCV, and it's been dubbed the skinny cannabinoid. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the answer. This is the answer for obesity, because the reality is these overweight people, they don't want to exercise. They're not going to do it. It's only a very small minority who can stick to, to go against all their urges and all the programming that's happened to go and change their diet and exercise and completely turn their life upside down. It's only a very small minority who can do that. The majority of people aren't going to do it. But this is something that can give them a tremendous boost and help them on the way, and help everything else that you're doing as a dietitian for people who are overweight. This could tremendously help all of those things work better, help them to stay on the diet that you want them to be on, help them to get results fast so that they see it working and they think, my God, this works. I'm on the right track. I'm going to keep going. And this THCV is absolutely phenomenal. And it has THC in the name, but it's not THC. It's not the chemical that people consume in cannabis to get high. It's a completely different chemical. In fact, it actually does the opposite of what THC does. THC tends to increase appetite. And you've heard, maybe you've experienced it yourself, gone to a dispensary or gone and consumed some THC, and you get the munchies. Your appetite just goes crazy, and you want to eat everything. And you want to eat the wrong things. You want to gobble into the wrong kinds of foods because it increases those cravings and it increases the appetite. THCV does the opposite. It decreases the appetite, decreases the cravings, brings you back to that situation of balance. THC tends to be mentally intoxicating, and that's the whole point for a lot of people. They want to be intoxicated, they want to get high. Certainly a lot safer than alcohol if that's what you want to experience. But THCV, again, it's the opposite. It produces mental clarity. And if you get a chance to try some, you will feel this. You'll feel like, wow, my brain is really working. I feel great. THC can cause anxiety, and THCV relieves anxiety. THC can produce sedating type effects. In the cannabis world, it's known as couch lock, where you lie on the couch surrounded by junk food and you can't move for 6 hours. You just sit there watching TV, pigging out. That's what THC does to you. THCV is the opposite. It's energizing. It makes you feel like you want to get out and do something and be active and be productive. So it's incredible, the benefits that THC has to offer. And there's now some pretty exciting research that has been done to have a look at what's actually happening and why it's working. And we'll just sort of review a few of them here. I'll read some quotes from some of the research papers. THCV significantly decreased fasting plasma glucose, so keeping the blood sugars low, so it stops you from putting on more fat. And it improved pancreatic function, so you've got better operation of your insulin, better response to blood sugars. It can help your body keep those blood sugars low so that you're not putting on more body fat. And the fat hormones also come back into balance. THCV could represent a new therapeutic agent in glycemic control in subjects with type 2 diabetes. Here's another one. The data strongly suggests that THCV suppressed food intake and weight gain and is a potential treatment for obesity. THCV restored insulin signaling and is a new potential treatment against obesity-associated glucose intolerance. THCV decreases appetite, increases satiety, and upregulates energy metabolism. So not only are you less inclined to eat the wrong things, your body just starts burning fat, making it a clinically useful remedy for weight loss and management of obesity and type 2 diabetic patients. So there's another one. THCV it's working in the brain. It increased responses in the brain related to food reward and aversion. So this is talking about you not wanting to have ice cream and Oreos and pizza and chocolates anymore. You just don't feel the need for it. This effect suggests therapeutic activity in obesity, perhaps with a lowered risk of depressive side effects. So again, it's got that uplifting, energizing type effect where you feel happy, you don't feel anxious, you don't feel the need for picking out on the wrong foods, and consequently, you don't get any of these depressive side effects. So it's ticking all the boxes, all the things that are associated with obesity. THCV has a role to play that can really help in this area. And our company has actually been involved in the first human clinical study with hemp THCV in the USA. This is a 2021 human clinical trial, which we commissioned with 125 subjects over a period of 90 days, and it was a double-blind, placebo-controlled, or so-called gold standard trial. And we looked at a bunch of different things to find out what was happening in the body, what really are these skinny cannabinoids doing. And here's what we found. Weight loss. 100 out of 100 subjects who were taking the skinny cannabinoid lost weight. And here's the kicker: without diet or exercise. They didn't have to change their diet. They ate whatever they wanted, and they didn't have to do exercise. So just having a few milligrams of this cannabinoid, a tiny, tiny amount of it, started pressing all those buttons and ticking all the boxes and balancing the endocannabinoid system, and it produced weight loss. And the average over that 90-day period was 10 pounds. And this is what 10 pounds of fat looks like. I mean, that's quite a lot. The people who were taking, we had two different groups, and one group took twice as much of the skinny cannabinoid, and they lost up to 22 pounds of fat. So more than twice as much fat as what you see there, without diet or exercise. They just ate whatever they wanted, and they didn't have to go and do exercise. So this is just an incredible result that in such a short period of time. And as you're going to find out, it was extremely safe. Abdominal girth, they lost up to 7 inches off their waist. And you can imagine if that much fat disappears, then your waist is going to slim down. Now, admittedly, these people were really obese. They were very overweight to begin with, so they had fat to lose. If you put a bunch of super skinny gym junkies onto this, they're not going to lose that much body fat because they just don't have it to lose. And they're not that far away from balance. So again, what the endocannabinoid system and these cannabinoids are trying to do is bring you back to balance. If you're a long way out of balance, you've got a lot of extra body fat that shouldn't be there, then there's a lot to lose. If you're already pretty close to balance, you don't have a lot of fat to lose, then the body is not going to force you to lose fat that you don't need to lose. That's the way the cannabinoid system works. But that's not the case with the USA. 60% of people are pretty badly out of balance. They got a lot of fat to lose, and it can really improve their lives if they had something that actually worked and was safe. And that's what we're finding with this THCV. Appetite was a 61% reduction of hunger, 39% reduction in appetite, 40% less frequent cravings. So that's just helping them to, even though we didn't tell them to change their diet, they just didn't feel the need to overeat, and they didn't feel the need to eat things that are causing the weight gain. Sleep. Sleep is really important actually for weight loss. There's a direct correlation there. Sleep was increased, the quality of sleep was increased, a 307% increase in deep sleep. So this is the deep restorative sleep, that when you're in deep sleep at night and all your body starts healing itself and repairing itself and processing your thoughts and getting you ready for the next day, and trying to get you back to being healthy again. That's where you need deep sleep. This cannabinoid helps improve that after 4 weeks. So 4 weeks of taking this, you'll notice that your sleep has improved. Anxiety, and the number one reason people are taking cannabinoid products, there was an 85% reduction in anxiety. And you can imagine if you're that overweight, you're probably suffering some anxiety. Life's probably not as pleasant as you want it to be. Blood sugars, there was 37 people in this group of 125 who were pre-diabetic. All 37 of them after 90 days, were no longer pre-diabetic. They were restored to healthy HbA1c blood levels, which showed that their body was now correctly managing their blood sugars. And that's a long-term solution when it comes to obesity and overweight. And I mentioned it was safe. It was well tolerated, no adverse effects in both groups, taking a small or a large amount of this product. And the same thing has been proven in animal trials as well, and other human trials that have been done elsewhere. It's very, very safe, which is great news. So this is something that, as it becomes more and more available, could be a very useful tool if you've got clients who are struggling with overweight and they want something to help kickstart them that's safe and effective to give them good results.